So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're calling in from around the globe. I am Shelley Johnson, the CEO and founder of Colorado Career Connectors, and we are so excited to have you with us. If you are new to us today, please let us know that you're new. We are growing Colorado Career Connectors and actually just started it in February of 2021, and we have over 540 people.
That's
So it's all about your career development, your journey of how you really choose your vision and your purpose and the framework that you leverage to resonate in your branding. And so today we have Lisa Carman, who is going to be taking us through writing a resume that works. And I want to see via your hands or like a thumbs up in the chat. How many of you love writing a resume?
I do.
Lisa does. Very. Glenda, we actually have someone calling in from Africa today. So wherever you are in the globe, welcome. We are here. If you have never met me, I'm Shelley Johnson. I am the CEO and founder of Best You Career Advantage and a premier career coach for Grace Hopper, which is the largest women's conference for women in computer science and technology in the world. I've also, in my past, I started Colorado Career Connectors in 2020, and I started Best You Career Advantage in 2019. I left a 20+ year global talent acquisition career where I led talent acquisition at companies like Comcast Technologies, Lockheed Martin, Sonora Quest Laboratories, and Honeywell Aerospace. But you know what? I felt like I had hit a wall and I was completely undervalued and lost and stuck and really scared, full of fear about what that next chapter in my life was going to be. And I just knew that I had to do something different. So I started doing some soul work and I started opening up my network to just talk with different people. And I realized there was such pain out there, especially during the pandemic, of career seekers, career development, of people not feeling like they were aligned with the right values, that they were paid for what they are worth. And that stress, that burnout, that overwhelm is really what I started focusing on. And so I am so proud today that we have over 500 people in our community and that I specialize in positive intelligence and mental fitness for the career journey. I have spoken to hundreds of women around the globe. I also love working with BIPOC and underrepresented candidates and also with executives. So Lisa and I are going to be giving you lots of tips today about branding and professional resumes, what we look for. And since I have been in the talent acquisition space, I will give you hints about what leaders look for, what would capture my attention. And so I really hope that you will participate, be interactive, and use the free work guide and guide that Lisa has put out there for you, that Yvette, my director of operations, has sent to you previously. And also the workbook link is in the chat. So this is all free for you because we want you to get a higher paying job. We want you to have deeper level relationships. And we want you to amplify your awesome and resonate at a much higher level. So thank you so much. We have 26 people. So without further ado, Lisa, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Oh, thank you so much, Shelley. I am just thrilled to be here presenting with you, and Yvette, thank you as well. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm all about helping people make progress in their careers and in their lives. And I'm just so glad that we've connected and we are both on the same page. And it's all about helping all of you in Colorado Career Connectors find the right role for you and get there in a powerful, targeted way. So I'm Lisa Carman. My business is called Resonating Resumes, and I've been running it for about 12 years now. I do have over 20 years in corporate America, and I have to tell all of you out there, because some of you might relate to this, I reinvented myself. This is my second act, and I reinvented myself well over 15, 16 years ago, and didn't really get serious about the business until 12 years ago. But in corporate America, I spent many years beating my head against a wall, thinking I needed to be a VP of Human Resources and Training because that's what was expected. And it just was not the environment for me. It wasn't the right job for me. And with the help of some really amazing mentors, they discovered what I was best at. And that is connecting with clients one-on-one and helping leaders take ownership for their value and articulating that value on a resume. As a writer, I've always written resumes. I just never thought of it as a business. And now, years later, I am extremely successful. I'm very popular, in demand in terms of resume writing and LinkedIn profile writing. And I feel so fortunate to be in the position I'm in, doing my favorite work every single day. So what I'm going to be leading you through, and what Shelley and I will be talking with you about, is my tried and true process for how to build a resume that not only gets you the interview, but also helps prepare you for acing the interview, for being very successful in your responses to the interview. Shelley, do you have anything you would add to that in terms of interviewing, since you do a lot of that coaching?
So Lisa and I both come from corporate. We've been in the talent space for a very long time. We are going to give you advice today on the branding piece. The reason I asked Lisa to join me is because I met her 6 weeks ago at Second Act Women's Colorado Career Camp, where she and I were presenting. And we just started talking. And from a soulful perspective, we just started clicking on so many levels. And so I hope that what you get from us today is high quality, will allow you to polish up your brand and really hone in on that relationship and make the pivots that you need in order to amplify, increase, and transform how you're showing up within your own career development. So Lisa, let's get going.
All right, let's do it. We're going to jump, we're going to jump right into the workbook. Yvette gave you the link. Also, if any of you are on my LinkedIn profile, I recommend you get there. Just look me up, Lisa Carman-resumes, and that's how you'll find me in LinkedIn. And it is the workbook itself that I'm going to be walking through as we chat is the first post under featured on my LinkedIn profile. So that's another way to get to it. And whether you go through Yvette's link that she provided or just through my LinkedIn profile, just download the MS Word file and you could fill it out and work on it as we're talking, whether you print it real quick or do it on the computer, whatever works for you. I also wanted to mention too that I just provided a free resume template that follows this workbook as well. And it's my most recent post on LinkedIn if you just wanted to grab that attachment at some point. So let's move on with what we're going to be talking about. Basically, this encapsulates my process, and I love dogs. So step one is identifying your best. This has to do with who you are as a leader, as a team person, what your strengths are, your personality traits that really help you succeed, your special knowledge and education, all those things that are key expertise for you that you bring to the table. So many people aren't clear about that, but we're going to get you clear about that. Step two has to do with achievements. This is how you show an employer what your value is in the workplace. And we'll talk a lot about that in the session. Step three is actually finalizing the resume document. And hint, all you have to do once you complete the workbook or fill in the template, just cut and paste sections from the workbook into a blank Microsoft Word document, and you've got your resume. And then step four, it's not enough to just finalize the resume. these days, you have to tailor it to the job descriptions you're applying to. And we'll talk about that at the end as well. So we begin about you. You have to take a deep dive into who you are and what you bring. So we're going to be talking about the banner of your resume, the top section. Your profile paragraph is part of the profile section, as is your key strengths.
Oh, her hair looks bad.
And then we'll go deep into your achievements in the experience section.
If you are not on mute, please put yourself on mute, or Yvette, if you can mute, please.
All right, so if you have the workbook in front of you, or if you're just taking notes on a blank page, you start with your banner. Your banner is simple. It's just your name and your contact information with a line, some kind of a border line to separate it from the next line, which is the job title line. And we're going to talk more about that. As you can see, I pointed out with a little arrow here that this line is either the specific job title that you're going for on a job description, or it's a range of titles that you're interested in that you would consider applying to. So when you have a job description and a specific role you're applying to, that line becomes that one job title. When you don't have that and you're sending the resume out to colleagues or to anyone else that might help get your foot in the door somewhere, then you want that job title line to reflect all the roles that you're both prepared to step into and are interested in. That's the caveat. You must be able to speak to those in an interview. So you want to be prepared for that and you're ready to step into them.
Lisa, you're absolutely right on that. Can you go back to that for just a moment for me?
You bet.
A couple things that I want to point out here is the reason that we have so many people here today is because resumes are like that Sasquatch on job seekers' back. And so Lisa and I speak resume.
Yes, we do.
And we laugh about that. But there's a couple things that I want to point out here. Your LinkedIn address should be your name. Now, Lisa Carman /resumes, because that's what she does. So in LinkedIn, you can go in and change in settings, your name. You don't want it to be a long name with numbers after it. You want it to be linkedin.com/in and your name. That makes it much cleaner. It's more current, it's more relevant. And you'll notice on here also that Lisa does not have a city or a state. Lisa, what are your thoughts on the candidate putting their city and state?
I mean, if you want to, you can. It just, to me, is using up real estate on the resume that's not necessary, that you could better use in showing your achievements. So these days, as long as you've got your email address and your LinkedIn and your phone number, that's usually all they need. Now, when you do a cover letter, I recommend that you use a regular, general, traditional format for a cover letter that includes your address at the top. So it's up to you. If it bugs you to not have your address, it's your resume. You can put it in there. But I want to use as much of the real estate as possible on the power stuff, which are your achievements.
Okay, I agree that the address is not needed, but maybe the city, state, but not having it there could actually be an asset because there's so many remote jobs right now or hybrid jobs where, for example, if the job is in Castle Rock and you live in Broomfield, that's a long way away. You don't want people discriminating based on your location. So
that's right. That's part of it. Yes.
Maisie has a question about what about including U.S. citizen?
Yes, if that applies to the types of roles you're going for, or you've had some pushback on that in the past, sure, you can include that. You
I agree.
Include security clearances right up front if you want.
I completely agree with that. We have another question from Glenda. Does that contact apply to international applicants or does that not matter?
I think for international applicants, I probably would indicate where I'm coming from, where I'm at, but with all of the opportunities with remote work, it may not matter.
I agree with that. It may not matter. If you're in Africa and you want to go to Canada, maybe have a local Canadian address that you want to move into where you will be. But these are really the important pieces. And in lots of different resumes, you will see this differently. But the other really important point that Lisa's talking about here is you have to have the specific job title at the top, because that's where the applicant tracking system is going to rank you at a higher level.
Right. Job titles always include keywords from that job description. They're always going to be searchable words for recruiters and headhunters and hiring authorities as well. So that's another reason to make sure you include the job description title when you have the exact one, for sure.
Awesome point, Lisa. I agree.
I also wanted to tag on to your comment about the LinkedIn URL, how I tailored it to say Lisa Carman -resumes. When you're in LinkedIn, it's super easy to change the URL, as Shelley was saying. And what you'll notice is if you don't customize it so it ends with your name, like I did, and I added a little extra, LinkedIn applies all these little random numbers and letters to the end of your URL. And you just are getting rid of those and showing it as a much more professional URL, and then add it to your resume for sure. And whenever you're guiding someone to your LinkedIn profile, you could just grab that link that has your professional URL and email it to someone. Great way to approach it.
There's another question from Karen. Should the line be a specific width? What's the width and the margin people should use? And then what is the smallest font people can use?
So I am tending towards using Calibri. Times New Roman is pretty outdated at this point. Arial is still in use, but it tends to be a larger font. And Calibri, I think, fulfills all the purposes we need fulfilled. And you're not going to have any trouble with another system, someone on the other end, opening up the resume and seeing some crazy font that they can't accommodate on their system. So that's why you want to go with a font like Calibri or Arial, just to be safe. Don't use crazy fonts. Real quick story about that. Years ago, I used a special bullet symbol from a real unusual font to show a check mark box on my resume. Like I'm saying, yep, got that skill. Yep, got that skill. I thought it was so clever. Well, I did get an interview, and at the end of the interview, the interviewer pushed my resume across the table at me that he had printed. And he said, I don't want to pry, but are you trying to tell me something here? And I looked at those bullets I had used with the weird font, from the weird font, and they were little devil pitchforks. And I was like, no, I'm not trying to tell you anything at all. So my point is, go with a normal font, one that's recognizable and usable today. And the most common right now are Calibri and Arial.
Perfect. No pitchforks, even though it is Halloween week. We don't want you to scare any potential employers away.
That's right. No devil's pitchforks. So in terms of the margins, I go with just a standard margin on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. The thing about resume margins is a lot of people just keep expanding them in order to accommodate more and more content on the resume. Don't do that. It really annoys human resources professionals when they can't take notes in the margins because the text is so broad, there's no space. And it really messes with the eye in terms of white space balance. So when you're doing a resume, allow for 1 to 1.5 inch margins on each side and a 1/2 inch to 1 inch on the bottom and the top. That's what I would recommend. You can mess with the margins a little bit, but whatever you do, don't take out all the white space. When you take out all the white space on a resume and all you see is a bunch of text, it's overwhelming and annoying to any reviewer, like an HR person or a recruiter, and you don't want to annoy them right off the bat. That's not the best case scenario. So make sure it's easy to scan and read with the eye and has plenty of white space. Ready to move on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Keep your questions coming. I hope this is helpful for you.
All right. In terms of the multiple roles of interest, when you don't have a specific job title, this can confuse people. So I wanted to address it. And just in your workbooks, you'll also see this. A couple of samples. These lines are each a string of roles of interest for certain roles. So someone who is at the very bottom, a salesperson, would go for a territory manager role, or even a regional VP role, or a portfolio manager or account manager role. So that's what I'm trying to display for you, to give you an idea of different roles of interest when you don't have an exact job title. And you'll see that in your workbook. All right, so now that we've covered the banner section, we're going to talk about your profile section. You do not need a heading title of profile. It's a waste of space. So right underneath the line that has your job title or roles of interest, then write your profile paragraph. In your workbook, there's a ton of examples, several more of the profile paragraph. I recommend between 300 and 500 characters, including spaces. So you want to be brief and concise. And consider this. This is the first piece of content anyone will read about you on your resume. So you want to grab them. So say the things that are most important first. My example here has to do with a results-driven risk management leader who has extensive achievements developing, implementing, etc. I'm trying to move my box so I can see it. And, governing strategic enterprise initiatives. So it was very important to this lady that we clarify that she works at the enterprise level. She's not department level. She's not small project level. She does large stuff. And one of her gifts is orchestrating those things across lots of different divisions and departments. So that's one of the reasons I wrote it the way I did for her. Cultivates cross-functional and key stakeholder relationships and influences engagement and alignment for the goals. This is her best piece, that last sentence, because she's such a relational person and she gains trust so quickly and gets people so aligned and enthused for the projects that they actually help make it happen. She doesn't have to drive it as much because of her personality and her strengths in that regard. Mm-hmm. I have another example for you there. I don't need to read that to you. You can see all of the examples for a profile paragraph in your workbook. Shelley, you mentioned profile paragraphs are an interesting concept on a resume. Some people use them, some don't.
I think profile paragraphs are absolutely necessary. It's the summary from a talent acquisition perspective that we look at first. And for my clients, from a career coaching perspective, I'm always asking them to think about some adjectives or skills or competencies that describe them. And so what I like about your second is visionary team leader, brand ambassador. You could take, so each sentence for me, Lisa, like visionary team leader that collaborates globally. I mean, think about how many words that are powerful there that the job seeker or the person who needs professional development want. So I actually really love these. The objective is a thing of the past in the resume. And the first half of the resume is the prime real estate for job seekers. So that is why Lisa and I are really hammering home that the first half, you've got to pepper that and really make sure that there are searchable words and keywords from the job description, because that is what's going to take you higher in the applicant tracking system.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you mentioned, an objective is no longer a relevant thing. It really isn't. Your objective is the job description title. That's it. That's what you're applying to, or that list of jobs that you're interested in.
Exactly. We have some really good questions.
Good.
The first one is from Lisa. What about putting testimonials and recommendations from your LinkedIn into your resume?
You absolutely can do that, but don't overdo it. I would use one. Put it in the footer on page 1 or page 2, or put it at the very end. If you could squeeze it in like in a text box at the top, you can do that too. You just don't want it to look too busy and overwhelming, and brief. If it's a really long recommendation, shorten it and put, ... in front of to indicate that you've shortened it, but just use the key stuff, the really important text that you want someone to see. Don't make them slog through a really long one.
I absolutely agree with that. And I've seen resumes where after core competencies or some other areas that Lisa and I are going to show you, that is there. So you have to be really strategic about where you place it. And then there's another question. Are profile paragraphs necessary? She's heard mixed advice preferences. So Maisie, both Lisa and I are saying yes. We believe that that will absolutely provide you with the biggest impact and most professional look.
Yes, agreed. And believe me, I've written every kind of resume possible over my 12 years just in business, running the business. And what I'm showing you is what really works today. I've adjusted as times have changed and the industry has changed in terms of workforce and employment search and career transition. But yeah, this is what works today.
Lisa, we have another question from Amberish from California. How long should a resume be? I've often heard it should be limited to 2 pages.
2 pages is the norm. That's a great question. 2 pages is the norm. If I'm talking to an attorney, it'll probably be 3 or more pages and listing a whole bunch of casework stuff. But that's different. And that's more like an addendum to the resume. But you want to stick to 2 pages. If you're a new grad, you might get away with 1 page or 1.5 pages. But for anyone who's been in business more than 5 years, you need 2 pages to reflect what you've really done.
There's a couple other different types of resumes as well that might be more than 2 pages. The other is an academic for professors and PhDs. And then if you are looking for a federal contractor resume, their resume types are completely different and they are much, much longer. Okay, let's keep going, Lisa, because we're getting some really good questions, but I want to make sure we get all the content in.
Absolutely. So your strengths are also a part of your profile section. And I recommend you identify 9 to 12 strengths and you put them in 3 columns. Or you could use a text box and put your strengths on the right-hand side of the profile paragraph. That's what I do sometimes. It's a really nice look, very balanced feel, but this works as well with the 3 columns. So these strengths could be called competencies, core competencies. They could be areas of expertise. They could be just strengths. Sorry, my dog made a funny noise. But the strengths are how you show what sets you apart from the competition. And your strengths should be keyword relevant to the types of roles you're going for. That is really important. So you have a couple of strengths you want to throw out at me, Shelley, or anybody else, or if anyone has questions about what makes a strength?
We have a question here about from a creative writing perspective on what titles, and maybe we can pepper that in. So she is creative writing and editing. What are some strengths that you might recommend for that?
Creative writing and editing. So perhaps the strength of business writing, copywriter. How about, I'm blanking, and I do writing, of course. Curriculum development, maybe that might be part of the creative writing you've done.
It could be instructional design.
In content writing, yeah.
Content, social media, presentations. It could be speech writing. It could be proposals.
To really narrow that down, look at the job descriptions you're considering and see what their key skills seem to be. Then that's what you pick, the ones that you can speak to in an interview and really reflect you.
Perfect.
Another suggestion I have for people, because you'd be amazed how many people, even VPs and up, say, well, I don't know what my strengths are. I don't know. It's just who I am. Talk to people you know. Talk to a colleague or a family member or a friend who knows you well and will be honest with you, and just say, hey, what do you think my top 6 strengths are? You might have some really nice surprises.
I love that, Lisa. Another suggestion that I saw, Lisa, is get your performance evaluations out. if you have assessments from Hogan, Clifton Strengths, Colby, Strength Finders, DISC, whatever, pull out those assessments and look at where you land. If you are a creative problem solver, put that down. If you are a global communicator, if you are bilingual, if you are whatever those strengths are, that's where you really want to bring those things up. So Lisa and I were having some fun with this before, and this is one of the most important things that Lisa is suggesting, and I absolutely agree with her.
And, you know, when you're thinking about all those other strengths that you're finding in your old performance reviews or whatever, you can also use them in the profile paragraph. You're not just limited to the key strengths list. So this is to be used throughout the resume for sure.
Lisa, we have a really good question. So many of my clients and in the group you and I are in with Second Act Women deals specifically with ageism. So the question is, should we say that we have 20 plus years of experience, or where do we cut that off?
You might notice in this example, the risk management leader with extensive achievements, that's because he has 30 years of experience, or she did. She has 30 years of experience, and we did not want to make it easy for the interviewers to discredit her for age. So instead of using numbers, we used extensive. Now, there are some roles that are going to require a long history or they won't be interested in you. So if you're going for a VP role or a global leader role, they're going to want to see that rich history. But do you have to say 30 years? No, you can say 20. You could say 17 plus. This is your resume. You choose how you represent your age.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Another question we're having come in is, how does one bridge together an old, long career to what you want to look for currently in a new career? Everyone wants to go back to what she did before, and she doesn't want to do that anymore. Oh my God, do I relate to that, Mary? What can she do on her resume?
You know, so what is the most significant thing that will change the direction of your trajectory with career search is making sure your resume is relevant to what you want next. So if what you've been doing for the last 15 years isn't what you want next, then you decide what is relevant. Like, is it more about your leadership on a team, not really the technical stuff you've been doing? And that's what we bring out in your more recent experience is your team leadership, your ability to drive projects to completion, your ability to get people to work together who normally don't want to work together. Maybe you're a great conflict manager. We'll bring that stuff out instead of focusing on the analytical or more technical stuff you don't want to do anymore. And then going further back, typically we're looking at 10 to 15 years at the most going backwards. But when you have a longer history, you can reflect that timeline in different ways. If some of it is relevant to what you want to do next, you might want to push it forward on the resume and have a small section at the top before you get to professional experience of key achievements or something like that, and have one or two things that are relevant that you've done 20 years ago, but it's not in the timeline. That's more recent. But you can still highlight those at the top. You can, instead of listing 8 different jobs 20 years back, you could say various roles in sales and marketing, or various roles in administration, or something like that, and just have one big timeline. So there's a lot of things you can do to downplay the timeline, especially for ageism, because it is out there, definitely. My whole thing is, don't make it easy for them to skip you in terms of age.
I agree. Lisa, we're already at 12:38, so let's keep going. I know we have a lot of content. These are awesome questions, but I want to make sure that we are robust with the content. So let's keep going.
All right. So
awesome.
After you're done with the profile section of the resume, then you start the professional experience section, which you'll see in the handout and in that template. And I just set it up as simply as possible. Could I use fun graphics and lots of color and stuff like that? Yes, I could do that, and I've written resumes and designed stuff like that. But then you have a problem with online application systems that are too old to deal with a larger file size. So I recommend going more traditional, set it up with the company name on the left margin and the year on the right margin, the year date range, then your job title, and then a 1 to 3 line responsibility statement. And I say the shorter the better with the responsibility statement, because that's not where you're showing your value. That's where the achievement statements come in. So I gave a few examples that you'll see in the handout, the workbook on examples of responsibility statements. Just be quick and short. Some people also want to provide information about the company. Well, you can if you want, but don't use more than a line to do it. It's your resume, not that company's. It might be helpful to clarify what an organization did in the market when you were working there, but I would just try to squeeze it into the company name line, like in parentheses or something like that. So the responsibility statements are key in terms of making sure you're just saying, hey, this is what I did. You want to include any budget responsibility, people that you've managed, teams, number of people might be significant. If you've managed 2 people, maybe I would just say managed marketing team or managed analytics team or whatever the case may be. If you've managed 70, let's make sure we include that information. Or if you've managed informally, even if it hasn't been a formal management role or you had the title manager or director or supervisor, if you have managed projects and led cross-functional teams, you have managed, and you can reflect that in your responsibility statement as well as your achievements.
Lisa, I love what you're bringing up here. From a talent acquisition perspective, I've literally have seen probably over 100,000 resumes. The ones that always jump out to me are the ones that have clear, concise specifics of how they have brought value, how they've changed processes, increased efficiencies, improved employment or employee engagement, client engagement, met sales targets. Those numbers, if you have them, are very important. And so many times my clients are like, I don't know my numbers, or it's a private company, etc. What is your advice for using filler words like significantly or drastically? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. To at least give it the color of really what the achievement was, what the impact was. You can use words like that. You can also do a guesstimate percentage. Mm-hmm. If you know you're being honest about it, and you're sure that you could speak to the fact that you improved productivity by at least 45%, then use that. You don't have to have exact numbers. As long as you can speak to it, that's all that matters. And you're being honest. Honesty is key.
Okay, thank you.
Key. There's lots of keys.
Yes, no falsification of documentation, because as the head of talent for bigger companies, I have had to go back and terminate for falsification of documentation on resumes, because you are signing that everything is true up to your ability to know that it's true. And so being honest and being humble is super important.
Absolutely. All right, this is my favorite part. Okay, this is when I'm working with a client and I say, okay, so give me an example of an achievement that you've had in the past. And sometimes they say right away, they've got a good example ready, but most of the time they say, oh, I don't know, I'll have to think about that. It's kind of just my job, it's what I do. And I'm talking high level people. So here's what I assign each person as homework. Make a list of all of your achievements. You could label AS stands for achievement statement. So AS1 could be IT project in 2020. AS2 might be financial forecasting team. AS3 might be analytics project in 2018. AS4, I mean, just go down the line and make a list of all of those achievements that you can think of. Now, here's the caveat. The achievements I really want you to focus on are the ones you want to talk about in interviews. What are those things that you're most proud of that you can't wait to tell them about in an interview? And just make your list. I recommend that you open a brand new Word document or Google Doc, whatever you use, and entitle this brand new document, My Successes or My Achievements, whatever you want, and start listing them as I'm showing here in the workbook, or take them from the workbook if you complete it. And then you're going to take each of those labels for each AS, each achievement statement, and build the statement. This is the fun part. I have developed, and believe me, over the years, I grew up on lots of different methodologies for writing achievements and statements and STARS. You've heard of STARS and SARS, and it's basically targeted selection interviewing from way back when. And I just have this simple, straightforward 3-step process. You start with an action verb, and I could also provide you with a list of good action verbs too. We'll talk about that, Shelley. Don't let me forget.
No problem.
So here's this achievement statement. The one that I wrote down for AS1 is lead technology upgrade. So starting with number 1, I start with the action verb of lead. Step number 2, explain the situation, especially anything particularly difficult or unusual or unique about it. So I tried to clarify. Led a resistant operations team in a CRM technology implementation. So that gives the reader a little more meat about what I was really doing. And adding that simple word, resistant, tells them that I was up against people who don't want to change, which is like everybody usually, most, and I was able to turn them around. But I don't get to the end until step number 3, and that's where you bring in the results. Quantitative, of course, is numbers, percentages, amounts, quotas, goals, anything that you can put a number to. And remember, you can guesstimate percentages. Or qualitative. And when we're talking qualitative, all we want to portray is what was better because of what you did. What changed? Was it the culture? Was it the team environment? Was it customer service? What was better as a result? You could have both types, like I show in the end where I finish this achievement statement. Led the resistant operations team in CRM technology implementation, drove team engagement, and met all deadlines and goals. And that's part of the result, and here's the rest of it. Increasing efficiency and saving $60K annually. And I know I went through it really fast. They take some practice to develop. I do these every day for people. You can do it if you really put your mind to it. And it's just short, simple, ending with the results. And each achievement statement ends with the results. So it develops kind of a rhythm for your resume. So anyone reviewing it after a few lines knows they just got to look at the end and see what your impact truly has been.
Lisa, that's great. I really want to focus. Do not make your resume sound like a job description. I cannot tell you how many of those I would receive. Next. You have 3 to 7 seconds to capture the attention of the recruiter. And if it sounds like a job description, we're going to be like, so what? In fact, a lot of times with my clients, I'm like, if they don't have the numbers, we go over it and over it. You have to have the answer to the so what question. So I just wanted
to are the results.
The results, the outcomes, yes. Exactly.
I'm glad you said that because, anyone could make a list of responsibilities they're supposed to be doing in their jobs every day. And that's, 70% of the time, that's what I see on resumes before I get a hold of it. Not everyone can actually show their impact by portraying results, by illustrating the true impact with quantifiable or qualifiable results. So in your workbook, you'll see these examples of achievement statements. All right, So that's what it's all about for the professional experience section. That is the biggest chunk that's going to take you the longest to develop. But think about this. Once you have those achievements written, all you're doing is adding to them throughout your career with new achievements. You're going to have to make hard decisions about which ones you get to drop off to keep it to 2 pages. But the great thing is, once you've got them written and developed in this concise form, you don't have to do it over again. It's done. And then you just keep adding to them. Other category headings that you can add to your resume or combine. I showed the top one. You can combine education with certifications and trainings. You could just say education. You could have a separate category for trainings if you want. Professional affiliations or organizations, publications and presentations. If they're really lengthy in terms of your publications and presentations or even patents, then make it an addendum to the resume that you provide as an attachment. Community service or giving back or something like that, or any number of other headings that you might come up with to finish up the resume. And here's where the rubber meets the road. After you have your resume document finalized, then you need to tailor it to the job description that you're applying to. Here is my tried and true process. This works for tailoring a resume to a job description. So you've got the job description in front of you on your computer. Maybe it's in Indeed, or maybe you have it pulled up on LinkedIn. What I do is I copy and paste all of the content from that job description, paste it into a new Word document, and name that Word document that job title. Then I quickly, with my Word highlighting tool, some people like to have it on print and highlight it with a real life highlighter, whatever you like. I quickly highlight the most likely keywords in that job description that I've copied and pasted into the Word document. So as fast as I can, knowing what I know about that job, what do I think are the key skills necessary for success? And I just quickly go, oh, probably that one, that one, that one, that one. And here's the secret. There's no magic formula to keywords. Your guess is as good as anyone else's. So it's based on your knowledge of the job and what you've done in the past in a similar role and what's going to be the most significant skills. Then after you got them highlighted, and I'm telling you, take 5 minutes doing this. Don't spend hours trying to tailor it. Then incorporate those keywords into your final resume document. So the first thing you'll do before you start incorporating is open up your final resume document and resave it with your name, resume, and the job title abbreviated, and maybe the company abbreviated, and the date. So this is a fabulous tracking mechanism for you to remember which resume went where. So rename the final resume file with that file name, indicating the title and company and date. And then the first line you're going to change is, guess what? The job title line. You're going to make that the exact job title of that job description. And then here's my tip of the year. You're only going to tailor the resume in the content in the profile section, under the key strengths and in the profile paragraph. Don't try to tailor content throughout the entire resume. It's a nightmare. Been there, done that. It's not necessary. That's why I make sure we have key strengths identified or areas of expertise and a profile paragraph for you to plug and play keywords into that resume.
Lisa, that is so important. There's a master resume that you can change up the real estate in the top half, making sure it's aligned to the job description. That is wonderful advice. Thank you.
You spend 5 to 10 minutes doing it and then go on to the next job description.
So Ambrish has a question. Ambrish has had responsibilities that contributed to big impact, most times not attributed to him. As an example, he built a massive reporting system which led to the retention and growth with all clients, but that division did not report to him. He was in that role. Oh, sorry, I just lost it. So how would he, that division didn't report to him. He was in that role. He solved problems, made the background and others, people look great. So if you're an individual contributor and you're kind of in the background and you're making other people look great, how do you bring that to the forefront?
You take credit for it in your achievements. Now, you're not saying, I'm the sole person who did everything and made the company successful. You're saying, here's what I did, including getting people to work together and providing them with all the support they needed throughout the project and problem solving along the way. And the overall impact was a successful, seamless system migration, or whatever the case may be. So you just reflect the true nature and results of the project, and you're being clear on the front of the achievement statement with what your role was. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Okay. So I wanted to mention this LinkedIn Premium feature. I do recommend that when you're in job search, you invest in LinkedIn Premium. I think it's about $50. I've been paying it for so long, I'm not sure if there's different plans now, but I think it's about $50 a month. When you have LinkedIn Premium, when you are in LinkedIn looking at a job description and you scroll down on the right, you can see competitive intelligence about other applicants and how you measure up. So take a look here. For the job I was looking at, I have only 3 out of the 10 top skills required for that job compared to other applicants. So if I really want to be considered for this role, I need to add as a keyword in my resume and in my LinkedIn, sales management, customer service, hospitals, marketing strategy, sales trainings, etc. So the competitive intelligence of the LinkedIn Premium is worth its weight in gold when you're in job search. Then once you get the job of your dreams, turn it off. It's really easy to cancel LinkedIn Premium and go back to the free basic plan. Just wanted to point that out because a lot of people don't know about it. For you DIYers out there, those of you who are going to really attack this and use this window of opportunity, and right now it's a huge window of opportunity because of the big resignation, the great resignation, the big quit. This has created tons of openings that might be just right for you. You just never know. And it's also created opportunities with work flexibility and being able to work remote, at least in a hybrid format, a couple of days a week, if that's what you're interested in. So there is a window of opportunity here, and I say go after it. And I know you can do it. It's hard to write your own resume because you're so close to you. That's why I'm so popular, but I know you can do it. Just focus. Don't get hung up on any piece. Just keep moving forward. Use the workbook and the template that I just posted on LinkedIn right before our session. And I'm committing to giving everyone with Colorado Career Connectors a 20% discount through November 15th this year. We don't have to be done by November 15th. We just need to set up the initial 1-hour meeting with me to kickstart your process. Just set it up by November 15th. Set it up, not on November 15th, but at least contact me by then.
Lisa, that is really generous of you. Thank you so much for allowing that discount for our audience. And
Pleasure.
We only have a couple minutes left. If you can stop sharing, I want to share a couple of things with the group. But thank you so much to Lisa, right? Was she not great, everybody? Thank you so much. We have a lot of great content coming your way. On November 8th, we'd invite you to join us for articulating your story in an interview. We have Keith and Elise coming in from Articulated Intelligence. If you haven't signed up for that yet, Yvette, can you please put the link in the chat? Colorado Career Connectors is here to help you with the resources, the networking, the high quality people behind the recruiters, the hiring leaders behind the recruitment curtain. We have some amazing speakers coming up for you. If you know anyone who needs that professional career development or is a job seeker from anywhere in the world, please send them to our community because we are going to grow exponentially in 2022. Super excited to be bringing back some of our best speakers from 2021. We'd also love for you to take our survey that closes this week. We've had several people join. This survey really allows us to understand the content that you want, need, and is most helpful for you. Some other things that are going to be happening in 2022, Lisa and I's partnership is going to be increasing. I love her for a Colorado-based resume writer. I absolutely recommend her. And if you need any help at all with networking, interviewing, landing a job, or finding a job, that's where I come in. 5 of my clients have landed in the past week. Some of them started last week, some of them start this week, but they're all over the country, and that is what I do. So just like Lisa leans into her love and her passion of writing resumes, that's not my passion. My passion is really helping you with the right positive intelligence, mental fitness, vision of what you want to do next in your career, and how you go after that, how you amplify that so that you're getting the interviews, that you're telling your story. And so if Lisa or I can help you, please let us know. We are here to be of service to you in a point that's really, really hard and can be very overwhelming. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will see all of you on November 8th. If you can, do our survey. We will be sending that out one more time this week. We also will be sending out a copy of this recording along with some of the answers to the questions which were asked. And if we did not get to your question, we will either be doing a social post about it or include the answer in the recording. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to see so many faces, familiar faces, new faces on here. And I appreciate you all hanging out with us on a Monday afternoon or Monday evening or Tuesday morning, no matter where you are. Take care, everyone, and keep your positive intelligence and mental fitness strong so that you can resonate and grab that job. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.